All right, our last speaker before we get to our panel is Amaury Sechet. Sechet. All right, take it away.
Well, don't applaud quite yet. You don't know what you're going for. So, yeah, I'm Amaury Sechet. It's been presented already. I'm here to talk about some of the basics of how I see Bitcoins, and then I'm going to present some small project of mine that I've been working on. So first, hopefully some people have been talking about that before me, so I'm going to go fast over this stuff. But Bitcoin is about money. So what is money? Money is like medium of exchange, unit of account, and store of value. What does that mean? You need to be able to exchange money with other people, otherwise it's not very useful. You need to be able to measure value with money, so you can, count how much money you have, and you can you measure that the table is maybe 1 meter. You measure like this item is that valuable, that much units of money. And store of value, which means I can put my money somewhere and trust that in the future it's still gonna be worth something. So the characteristic you want for that, you want to be transferable, fungible, divisible, scarce, and durable. And the human civilization so far came with many forms of money, but two of them were very, very successful. So this is fiat money and gold, or other precious metal in general, silver, whatever. So fiat money is like probably what you have on you right now, banknotes, coins, and all of that. It's very easy to transfer from people to people. It's very fungible. It's very easy to divide. And however, it's not that scarce and durable. I know that Jameson already mentioned it, but the average lifespan for a fiat currency is 27 years, right? So it's very, very short. There is many people in their lifetime that have gone through several currencies. Like my grandparents have been through 3 different currencies, and this is in France, so this is a rather stable country. Many countries have seen much worse than that. On the other hand, gold is very scarce and durable. It's very fungible. Like there is nothing that is as similar to gold as gold. However, it's not that easy to transfer and divisible. I put them in yellow because you can do it, obviously, but it's not super duper convenient. Hopefully, we recently, as the human species, come up with another technology called Bitcoin, and Bitcoin have been doing all those stuff much better than the alternative, maybe until recently with the fee rising and stuff. But so far, it has the potential to be essentially the best money ever created. And the reason I'm pointing that, it's because this is a civilization-altering discovery, in my opinion. This is a discovery that is probably as important as a printing press, or like some kind of similar, very big event that's gonna change how people live, quite literally. All right, some basics of economics. Probably a lot of people are familiar with this graph, but maybe some of you are not, so I want to make sure I have the basics covered. You see on the vertical axis, this is the price of whatever, of widgets. And on the horizontal line, this is the quantity of widget. And you have 2 lines on this graph. The blue one is going up. And this is how much people that produce widget are willing to produce depending on the price, right? So the higher the price of the widget, the more they are incentivized to produce more widget, right? And on the other hand, you have the orange line that is going down, and that is the willingness, the demand for widget, right? So the cheaper the widget, and the more people are willing to buy widgets. And those 2 lines, because one is going up and the other one is going down, they are gonna cross at some point, which is the free market equilibrium. This point is gonna determine the quantity of widgets that are gonna be supplied on the market, and the price paid by either that the supplier receive or that the person that buy pays. We can note that when the market is not at equilibrium, it tends to naturally go there, right? Because if the equilibrium is too much on the right, then people are not happy because they find the widget is too expensive, so they are gonna buy less of them and converge toward the equilibrium. And when you go on the other side, those are the suppliers that are unhappy because the widget is too cheap. All right. So on that graph, there is two areas that are very interesting, but it does work. Those are those two triangles. And as you see, there are people that are all over this line and all over this line that want to buy and sell, right? And for those people, the widget is very, very valuable. They are willing to pay a very high price. And then some other people, the widget is less valuable. Like, value is subjective. It's going to depend on whatever people do with the widget. And the same thing, people are producing widgets, and maybe they don't have the same production cost depending on where the factory is, or maybe they could produce something else than the widget with the equipment they have and everything. So for some people it's very cheap to produce widget, and for other people it's going to be more expensive to produce widget. And essentially those people that find widget very valuable here, this is how much they value a widget, but this is how much they're going to pay. And so the whole area of this triangle here is the surplus value for the people that buy, right? So it's they're going to pay the price, but they're going to value the widget more. So this is the value created for all the people that buy widgets. And the triangle below works the same way, but for the producer. Like, a significant amount of producer value widget less than what they're willing to sell them for. And so the difference in the price is going to be how much value is created for the producers. All right, so in Bitcoin, there are many, many different markets, right? There are many different widgets or goods and services and stuff. And many of those markets, there are either complement or substitute. So what does that mean? Complements, that means that when the demand for widget A increased, the demand for widget B increased. Then widget A and B are complements. So for instance, the typical example in economics is going to be sausage and buns, right? Because you want to make hot dogs. And if maybe the sausage become more expensive, then people are less willing to make hot dogs, so the demand for buns decreases, even though the price of buns didn't change. And you have substitute, this is the exact opposite. So for instance, I came here by train. I could have drove here, or I could have taken a plane, but I took a train, right? So the plane and the train are gonna be substitute goods in my case, right? So we have two markets as far as Bitcoin is concerned. If we want to understand Bitcoins, we want to understand there is two markets here. One market is for the Bitcoin itself. People want to get Bitcoin, and people maybe want to sell Bitcoin because the value rose a lot and they want to cash out or whatever, right? And on the other end, people also want to have transaction go through. So what they are buying here is transaction confirmation from miners. And so the supplier are going to be the miner that confirm the transaction, and the people that demand are the people that want to exchange money. And those two markets with those two goods are complement goods, obviously, because if you want to exchange Bitcoins, you need to have Bitcoins to begin with. And so if you need to have Bitcoins to exchange Bitcoins, that increase the demand for Bitcoin itself. So here we have two markets that makes Bitcoin work and that are complementary. However, one of those markets right now, we have a quota. So it's a maximum amount of supply that can be provided on the market. And this quota is like, you can have no more than 1 megabytes of transaction per 10 minutes. I don't consider that there is a quota on the other market. Can someone maybe explain why? Because there is definitively a 21 million Bitcoin limit that we're never gonna go over. So we could say in some sense this is a quota, but I would argue that this is not. Because those 21 millions are units to measure value, right? So if I buy a liter of milk, I'm not buying a liter, I'm buying milk, right? And in this case, what I'm buying is value denominated in Bitcoin. The fact that this value is 1 Bitcoin or 2 Bitcoin or whatever. Like we could have chosen that Bitcoin is like 42 million Bitcoins, right? That would have worked the same way. As long as we pick a number and we stick to it, things work. And I can buy an arbitrary amount of value in Bitcoin, right? Because the more I buy and the more the value of the Bitcoin is gonna go up. So right now the market cap is 30 billion, but if I want to buy for 1 trillion of euro or dollar of Bitcoin, I can, right? Because as I'm gonna buy, the value is gonna go up and up and up and up until the market cap is so high that I can eventually buy 1 trillion Bitcoin. So there is no real cap there, but there is a cap on the other side. And the way it affects the economics of that market is that way. So the graph is a bit more complicated, but we see that first we have this red line here. That is the quota. We cannot produce more than the quota. And if the line is on the right of the equilibrium, that doesn't change anything. And it has been that way for most of the history of Bitcoin. There was not enough demand to fill up the block, and so the quota don't really matter economically speaking. But once the quota go on the left, several stuff start to happening. And the first one is this red area here that economists call deadweight loss. And those are trades that would have been valuable for both the producer and the consumer, because whatever we see, they're on the right of the equilibrium and they value the goods more than the other. So those would have been trades that would have been profitable both for the consumer and the producer. But they are not going to happen because they are disallowed by the rules of the system. So this is like pure waste. Like this is economic value that could have been created that never will be. And then we see that the producer is willing to sell at this price, but the consumer is willing to buy at that price. What does that mean? It's kind of weird, right? Because we cannot have two prices for the same good. So what's going to happen is like the producer is going to sell actually at the price down below, but the consumer is effectively going to pay the higher price, but not only to the supplier, right? There are a ton of stuff that have a cost, maybe not a cost, directly monetary cost, but that still have a cost, right? So if your confirmation, if your transaction take a very long time to confirm, unless you think your time is not valuable, then you're paying extra for it because you're spending time waiting for it to confirm. The same way, if this is not reliable, then you're somewhat paying for it because you need to worry about things that if they were reliable, you wouldn't be worrying about. And your attention and your level of stress is also, some valuable resources. So you want the stuff to just work. And finally, another thing that appears in that area is people that are going to provide services to work around the problem that is created by the quota. And those people, in our case, are going to be people that want to provide services to work around the fact that there is a 1 megabyte limit. And those services, they actually, get their money from the fact that there is this green area. And if you remove the 1 megabyte limit, then the green area disappears and their business model disappears as well. So once you understand that graph, you actually understand the behavior of many actors in the space. Almost everybody fits somewhere in there, and it makes rational sense for them to behave the way they do. I see a lot of grand conspiracy on both sides of these debates that, maybe Blockstream has been mandated by bank to destroy Bitcoin, or that Jian Hu there is like an evil miner and he wants to create a Jian coin that he can control and everything for the Chinese government or whatever, right? So I hear a lot of crazy story like that on both sides. But actually, if you look at this graph and if you understand this graph, some people are behaving like idiots and it doesn't make sense on this graph. But like 95% of all people behave in the space depending on what they want to achieve. Makes sense once you understand that. All right. How do we know if the quota is on the right or on the left? Intuitively, we would say the fee are rising, things are becoming unreliable, so we must be on the left. But there is a way to know, right? We look at substitute goods. So we want to know what are substitutes good of Bitcoin. And so I looked at alternative cryptocurrency, and I looked at the correlation of the price movement between Bitcoin and those other cryptocurrency. And we see that many of them, among the one I choose, actually have a negative correlation with the price movement of Bitcoin, which means they are substitute good for Bitcoin. When Bitcoin doesn't do what it's supposed to do, people use this technology instead of Bitcoin. One thing that kind of surprised me is that Monero absolutely doesn't look like it's like when Bitcoin's a problem, it doesn't look like people are like, I'm not gonna use Bitcoin, I'm gonna use Monero. It's like the movement of the two seems more to go together than in the opposite direction. So they are probably tapping in different market here, serving different use case and different users. But the other one, they evolve in the opposite direction, so to some extent they are substitute good. And so if we look at how much people are using Bitcoin and how much people are using the substitute good, we see that there is a very clear trend here. And we can probably assume that the red line cross from the right of the graph to the left of the graph somewhere, around here. So it's going to be March, around there, right? It's where the quota line started to be on the left of the graph way too much, and people started using substitute good. All right, so that's pretty much what I wanted to say about economics. Let's go on. Proof of work. This is what miners are doing. Essentially, they are burning resources, like quite literally, in the real world and transforming them into Bitcoin. Obviously, what? All right, so at the beginning, we only had Hashcash. It was terrible because there was a terrible inflation, right? Like, you remember that, guys? And then Satoshi came along and fixed it. No? Nobody remembers. No, actually, this is not how it happened. But seriously, what proof of work is useful for is that it makes it very expensive to rewrite history. Because you need to expend resources to write history to begin with and to rewrite it. It also creates a very strong incentive to converge toward the same chain, because if you don't, then your coins that you are producing by mining are not very valuable. And it transfers from the existing system into Bitcoin, right? So it's actually a transfer of value from the existing world, the legacy world, to Bitcoin. So that creates a strong incentive to keep Bitcoin valuable, right? Otherwise, you are burning resources and getting worthless shitcoin. All right, so the current roadmap makes no sense. Considering the time, I'm gonna go very fast, but essentially, I got some quote from users. So the first one was saying, I wish I could use Bitcoin, but it's using ECDSA instead of Schnorr signature. Well, everybody knows that the patent expired in 2008. No, nobody told me that ever. It turned out that what most everybody is saying is like, what the fuck, my transaction hasn't confirmed. This is the number one reaction when you talk to real users. And this is quite a problem. And the solution is this kind of stuff. So do you guys know what this picture is? No. It's like a presentation from Philips for connected light, right? So you have actually your light bulb here. And then you have like a ton of shit that nobody cares about, like Redis database and cloud and whatever. And nobody knows why you would need all of that to switch on your light. But still, apparently, engineers, they like to engineer. So if you let engineer in charge too much, this is what happens. And I thought it was a very good metaphor for SegWit. So essentially, SegWit increased capacity a bit, but damage scaling because there is adversarial cases that become much worse. And this is not a big deal if you want 1 megabyte forever, right? But if you want to grow to big block, maybe 1 gigabyte block, if you have a 4x penalty, it's a 4 gigabyte block instead of a 1 gigabyte block. And that's become a serious scaling issue. So that's probably like the number one issue most people have with SegWit. Malleability fix is actually not quite sufficient. It's sufficient enough to work a Lightning Network. It's not sufficient enough to protect against the attack like the one that BitClub did on the network a few months back. So it's like, maybe good enough for some use case, but it's not quite there, right? So essentially what I'm trying to say here is like, oh yeah, it doesn't solve quadratic hashing as well, because you can still do transactions that have the quadratic hashing problem, and then it's very expensive to validate them. So the attack vector still exists. Essentially, it's a very complicated way to do not much. So yeah, that's how I would grade it. Then, well, ASIC boost, I run quick numbers. Essentially, like the story says, miner don't want to activate SegWit because ASIC boost, right? So it's true that ASIC boost make it somewhat more expensive. Like SegWit make it somewhat more expensive to use ASIC boost, right? So this is like how many round of SHA you need to find 2 suitable header to run ASIC boost without SegWit and with SegWit. So we can say that with SegWit, it's somewhat more expensive. But you've noticed the green area there. It's so much round you save when you run ASIC boost, and it's actually like somewhat zoomed because it looked like this in practice. So this is like how much SegWit block ASIC boost, like 0, nothing. And for some weird reason, this narrative I cut off, there is like no numbers that can substantiate this claim, but for some reason this is a claim that stays. Replaced by phi, destroy 0 conf, a grand total of 0 tests, so that's very, very good code, right there, written by Wizard apparently. So the code is, the test is magic. It's Wizard level technical debt. It solves problem that nobody wants to have solved. And then we're said, yeah, well, this stuff is very complicated and doesn't do quite as much as we'd like, but we're gonna have Lightning Network. But essentially, Lightning Network has 2 issues that I would like to bring up. The first one is that it doesn't work when blocks are full. It's not secure. And the argument goes back, you have a Lightning hub, and you can open like many channels to that hub, and you're gonna have one coin that you circulate, between Alice 1 and Alice 2 and Alice 3, and the hub doesn't know that this is the same people every time, but you can circulate the same coin in many channels with yourself, with the hub. And then you end up in a situation where you only circulated one coin, but you have a prior state in all the channels where you have one more coin than you're supposed to have. So if you close all your channels at once, in this case there is 13 channels, you potentially can steal 13 coins for the hub. And the hub needs to publish a punishment transaction for you that the Lightning Network protocol, implements. But if there is no on-chain capacity to do it, then the hub is not going to be able to do it. And if you do the same attack with literally 100 or maybe thousands of channels, you're going to create a flood, so the hub is not going to be able to do it. And if you have just 100 channels, the attack is super asymmetric, right? Because if you have 100 channel open, the hub needs to have a 99% success rate in publishing the punishment transaction to just break even, right? So this is a super asymmetric attack, and this is super dangerous for the hub if the blocks are full. So Lightning Network doesn't work when blocks are full. And the second problem is it's not a general scaling solution, because when the value of the payment gets high, the amount of money you need to look in the different hub gets absurdly high. So if we consider 16 million users, which is probably about the size of Bitcoin right now, maybe on the optimist side of the estimation, and you want to allow those users to do payment up to $1,000 in value, then you need the hub to lock all the hub together to lock at minimum. This is the mathematic minimum, right? So in under realistic scenario, it's going to be more than that. But at the mathematic minimum, $32 billion. So I have no idea where the hub are going to find so much money, but this is a $32 billion question if you want to answer it. But we can see that this is not even significantly bigger scale than the network right now, and this requires an ungodly amount of money to run and to stake into channels. So don't get me wrong, actually I'm very bullish on Lightning, but the talk is short, so I need to take some shortcut. But I see it it's very good for some use case. So if you limit the value of payment to $1 instead of $1,000, for instance, you only need 32 million in the hub, which is still a substantive, it's a lot of money, but it's not kind of money that is impossible to find. But 32 billion is starting to be the kind of money that, is somewhat hard to find. So it's still awesome. It's an awesome technology. I like it, but it's not a replacement for on-chain scaling. All right. So maybe we can have a roadmap that makes sense instead of a roadmap that makes no sense. All right. So first, we want to do a block size increase. I mean, a lot of people oppose that, but in that room, I guess most people, I don't think I'm going to have to agree to argue too much for that. Anyway, we want replay protection between the two chains if we're going to fork, because we know that some people, they don't want bigger block. And I think that's fine, maybe they're right. I think they're wrong, but maybe they're right. And if they are right, they should be free to do whatever they think is right. So we want a way to protect the transaction against the two chain. And the way we can do it is by implementing bit 143 style signature on current transaction. It solves quadratic hashing. It opened the opportunity to do signature cover value that improve the security of hardware wallets. And it allowed to create compact float proof for double spends and stuff like that. So it's a pretty good technology, and why not use it? Because it's also implement replay protection for us. That's good. So that's all we are. And that's pretty good already, but we can do much more. The good thing is that all of that is going on in the pipe, and you don't have like those big red boxes that are gonna be some dead weights that you're gonna have to drag with you for the whole history of Bitcoin once it is in it. All right, so what we can do next after that, fixing malleability. We want to do something SegWit-like, but not SegWit, something as a hard fork that doesn't have the problem that SegWit have because it's made as a soft fork. Essentially, the worst one being the 4 megabyte adversarial case, which is a big problem for scaling. You can do a hard fork that gives you the same benefit as SegWit without this kind of problems. UTXO commitment, so nodes can start much faster. You can do sharding because you are fraud proof, and so sharding allows you to do many gigabytes block in a manner that is much more easy. And then you want to do progressive block construction. So what I mean by that, right now the node is like, I'm doing nothing. Oh shit, there is a block that arrived. I need to work like crazy to validate as fast as possible. And then I go back doing nothing. So what you would like is to have some kind of protocol where you can build the block over the 10 minutes, and then when someone finally finds proof of work for what everybody is working on, this can be broadcasted, and all the nodes are like, yeah, this is pretty much what I was expecting. And you can like spread the load over 10 minutes instead of doing nothing for 10 minutes and working like mad for, as long as the block takes to validate. All right. Is this real life? Is this just fantasy, right? It's actually not. We got the implementation of that right there. You can go check it out. This is essentially the plan that Jianu talked about, say, roughly 2 weeks ago, where he presented that they wanted to hard fork and they wanted to have replay protection and all of that. So this is like actual implementation of that plan that you can use now. And I guess I'm gonna open to question about that because it's probably a lot of information already.
Questions? Oh.
Would the replay protection be opt-in or mandatory?
The replay protection is opt-in. So the legacy way of signing transaction still works, but if you use that way, it's going to be replayable across chains. But you can use this new way, and it's going to play only on one chain.
Would anyone be able to like spend any SegWit transaction that's happening on another chain?
If they are not careful about how they are doing it, yes.
All right. Any other questions? Really? You thought there would be a lot of questions?
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Oh, okay, great.
This is big news, I guess.
Could you just talk about this node implementation that you just announced? Is it running? How have things been developed? Have you tested it? Stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm announcing this code. We have been working it for some time now. I'm announcing it right now because the code is there. It's working. We have forked it, testnet many times already. We've tested like various scenario and reorgs and all this kind of stuff. So we are putting that to the public right now because we're confident that it's it's a level of quality that we're happy with.
Have you talked with other miners about running this implementation? I mean, what do other miners think about it?
All right, so I've talked with a few miners, mostly big block miners, because those are the ones that are interested in that project. Essentially, there is a value scenario the situation can unfold. Right now, the SegWit 2x proposal is getting a lot of traction. However, for SegWit 2x, there is a big risk of bait and switch, right? So people are going to activate SegWit, and then they don't want to do the hard fork part of it. And this is a significant risk with SegWit 2x. And if you don't have a plan B, essentially you guarantee that it's going to happen, all right? Because you don't have a plan B, right? So you have zero leverage in this situation. So so there is one situation where SegWit 2x is finally the solution everybody goes for, but I think even in that situation, it's very useful to have this stuff ready to run because it gives us leverage. The alternative solution, the alternative scenario I see playing out is that people decide to do UASF anyway and fork the chain. And in this case, that would undermine the support for SegWit 2x quite a lot, the way I see it, because SegWit 2x is a solution nobody on either side is very happy with, but it's kind of a solution that people are willing to work with to avoid a chain split, right? So if you cause a chain split, then you have no reason to support SegWit 2x anymore, essentially. And so if people really want to split, then the SegWit 2x support is probably going to unravel pretty quickly, and then we need to have a plan B, right? So that's it.
Could you explain the mechanism to soft fork the quadratic hashing fix?
Yeah, so as part of this hard fork, we have a new signature sham that we use for replay protection, right? That means that you can remove the old signature sham at some point in the future. You want to give it like sufficient time so people can, migrate their system and everything. You don't want to do that immediately, but over time, you can starting to make the old legacy signature sham non-standard, so the transactions are not going to be relayed, but you can still mine them. And then even later, you can make it illegal, and those steps would be all soft fork, which is much easier, especially since fixing quadratic hashing is not really, something that is super controversial. So this is why I put like ongoing or something like that in the stuff. It's because we have this. We have you need to have a hard fork at some point. If you want to remove quadratic hashing, at some point in the process, you need to have a hard fork. So the hard fork part is part of the hard fork, right? And then we can rule out the part that cause problem in a much, it's much easier essentially. You cannot do that in the SegWit scenario because it would be a hard fork to remove it after SegWit. Essentially, SegWit also add a new way to do transactions that don't suffer from quadratic hashing, but you cannot remove the old way without a hard fork in the SegWit situation.
Yeah.
The sharding, is that implemented in the Bitcoin ABC, or that's just like a on the
No,
roadmap?
it was like the title of the slide was in the pipe. Okay. So if this stuff takes steam and end up being where we're going, then this is where we want to go. You know, so we want to go to very big blocks, and we want to develop those technology to reach like really big blocks in a way that, you know, it's going to work properly.
I'm wondering what the compatibility is with existing SPV wallets.
So the existing SPV wallet, if you don't upgrade them or anything, they are not going to be able to do transactions that are not replayable because they don't know about this new signature chain. But they're still going to be able to be on the network and transact and work properly, granted that the node they are connecting to are nodes that are compatible with that, right? So they need to get their information from a piece of code. But the SPV itself doesn't need to, it does only need to be modified if you want to use the replay protection feature. If you don't want to use it, then you don't need to upgrade it.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm just wondering, is the client based on core? Is it like a core fork and with some patches? And second part of the question is, who's the team working on it? Like you mentioned we a couple times. I'm wondering who we are.
So it's based on the core 0.14. But then we removed RBF because it doesn't make any sense. It's a bad feature. We removed most of Segwit as well, and then we implemented the Arc4 consensus rules. And when I see actually, I think I should thank a few people there that are in the we, because I've been pushing them pretty hard over, over some time to make that happen. So I think it's time also to show that I can be a good guy and not just a bad guy. So. So the first person I would like to thank is Free Trader. I don't know if you see the guy online. He's more or less anonymous, but he's known as Free Trader. And he's probably the person that have contributed the most to this project. It's mostly like, Free Trader and myself have done the most of the work. I'd like to thank the Bitprim people. They have helped a lot, especially on the testing live on testnet. So we forked testnet many times. And tested many different scenarios to make sure they all work well. And those guys, they have some code and some infrastructure, and they helped us, test all those scenarios. So that was super great. SigPig that is here, and Omeni and QChipan also helped a bit. So those three guys, I think they are here.
That's SigPig.
Yeah, SigPig.
Wait, which one is SigPig? That's you?
Yeah.
All right, sorry. Were you done? I'm sorry. Sorry to burst out like that.
I guess I want to thank
well,
maybe Jianwu as well.
Done with
Jianwu
your
as well,
answer.
because
Okay,
he came up with like he originated the stuff, right? So
we still have questions. I just want to make sure you know that answer.
I've just got a comment, actually. You were talking about equilibrium, and everyone learns that in sort of economics, but the real thing is not when things are at equilibrium. That's where people get wrong. It's when it's not at equilibrium. You study equilibrium so that you can understand when things are outside equilibrium. It's like the Atlantic Ocean. I mean,
everything is slightly out of equilibrium and converged toward the
exactly.
equilibrium.
It's about even.
Especially
there's
since
waves and there's tides,
yes.
and that's what makes life, and it's
Yes.
really exciting.
Yes.
It's when we get equilibrium sort of failures, and when things are outside of that, and when we have more buyers and more sells, and the market is all over the place. That's what we study equilibrium for, so we can see why we.
Yeah, everybody has imperfect information in there, and everybody is also not completely objective and stuff. So you are still like you're never at the equilibrium, but whatever situation you are in, you tend to go there eventually. Like you tend to converge and to be around that point. Yes.
Anyone else? All right. Oh wait.
I've got one more question about RBF, actually, that part about it. Here in Bitcasa, we check for RBF transactions, because when you go to a restaurant, we cannot have any RBF transactions.
Yeah.
But in the current implementation, those transactions are noticeable. Actually, if you remove that feature, actually, when people, for instance, do a double payment at a restaurant, because the first one, their Wi-Fi wasn't working or something like that, then they contact us, and then we resend them their bitcoins, and we actually use RBF at that moment, because sometimes when we refund those bitcoins and the blocks are full, the transaction won't come through.
That's the point, right? The blocks are full. So FBF is like some stupid idea to work around problem caused by the fact that the blocks are full, and that is destroying various other use cases.
Yeah, but I don't think there will be a situation where blocks will never be full.
Why not?
Yeah, if you don't cap them at any point, but.
Well, there is only so much money people are willing to pay. So even if you have very low fee, say you have like 1 cent per transaction. I mean, you want to fill a 1 gigabyte block, it's gonna be expensive anyway, and it's gonna clog the stuff only for 10 minutes. You're gonna spend an ungodly amount of money clogging 1 gigabyte blocks, right?
Yeah, maybe it's just me, but I don't think 1 gigabyte blocks will be a good idea at this moment.
Well, not at this moment, right? But you want to onboard people more and more and more and more over time.
Sure.
And eventually you want to get there, right? So
yeah.
Next year, 2 megabytes, 4 megabytes maybe, and you know, you go up and up and up, but you don't want to limit yourself artificially. You know, it would be like Google saying, oh, we served like that many requests today, so sorry, you cannot like search on Google anymore. Or Facebook, like, we already have 2 billion people on there, that's enough, I guess, you know, you cannot register, right? Like no sound, you know, no sound business or whatever that is trying to develop is gonna do this kind of policy except Bitcoin. That is just crazy.
Yeah.
Wait, here. Wait for so you'll get on this now. And thanks for asking the replace by fee question.
Hi, I just wanted to follow up on that question because I think he did have a good question because that's the regular user scenario, right? So
yeah.
That's not the geek side of it. This is just an everyday user. So can we please talk about how he addresses that problem without having the feature? How does he address his problem? So somebody spends twice because they didn't have Wi-Fi connection or something. He needs to give them their money. The feature he used to use is no longer there. How does he do it now?
Yeah, but he needs this feature because payments are unreliable right now.
Okay.
If payments are reliable, it doesn't need this feature. And even say, you know, for a temporary reason, payments are not reliable, it can still use technology like child pay for parent or whatever to like bump the priority of whatever transaction is doing. This is not ideal, but you know, like the way you want to solve that is making the network work well and be reliable and do what people expect. Not having something that doesn't work right and having like all kind of crazy patches around to, you know, work around the problem that is caused by because it doesn't work right, right?
I agree with what you're saying. You don't want to use a patch for, you know, the wrong solution.
I want to get this guy's sound.
All I'm trying to say is your regular user doesn't understand what's going on.
Yeah, I don't want them to have to understand any of it.
Right,
like the user
right.
doesn't give a shit.
Right.
Like I'm paying.
Exactly.
And then I leave, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. And the restaurant is like, I received the payment, I trust it's gonna be confirmed. And I don't want to like spend whatever time, like, you know, if I'm a pizzeria, whatever, I'm making pizza, I'm buying, you know, stuff to make pizza, tomatoes, whatever, right?
Right.
I don't want to be thinking about cryptography and full blocks and whatever, right? Like this is not what I'm there for.
So what you're saying is that he doesn't have to worry about that anymore because the fact that, for example, someone's Wi-Fi isn't working, it won't time out the payment. They'll
Oh
still
no,
get
so this can still happen if the Wi-Fi is not working. Then
Okay.
you know. So, but the problem is talking about is like people for some reason the Wi-Fi or whatever is not working, and so they pay twice.
Yeah.
Right, because of that, and then they want to refund that person, and if that person doesn't get the refund, they are pretty angry, and you know,
Yeah.
like for a good reason. I mean,
Right.
legitimately so, but so this is why they use RBF for the refund because they want to make sure that people are gonna get their refund and not be pissed off.
Right.
But if the network is reliable, then they can send refund and trust that the person is gonna receive it. This is where you want to go, right?
Yeah. Now, I'm practically a layman. So I always thought replace by fee was opt-in and it wasn't really causing issues in the real world right now. Is that not the case? Is RBF actually causing problems?
Well, here is the problem. When you make the transaction as a user, you are the one that decide if it's replaced by fee or not, right? But the person that cares about the fact that it's replaced by fee or not is the person that received the transaction.
Sure.
Right? So if you go to a restaurant, you pay with a replace by fee transaction, and then you go out and replace it by fee, essentially you stole from the restaurant. And you don't care, the restaurant do care, and the restaurant have zero choice there.
Are people paying with replace by fee often? I mean, is that a real world thing that's happening?
You don't want that happening, like this is destroying zero.
But is that happening? I just don't know if people are using replace by fee actively.
Well, it is, yeah. Most merchants won't accept it, I guess. Like if they are serious about what they are doing.
And this will be the last one because we've got our panel.
No, it's not happening. Most of the people actually here in Arnhem have a decent wallet, and most of those wallets don't support RBF. But if they would support, they would immediately get a notice that the payment won't be accepted, and a refund process will be allowed as soon as the payment will get confirmed anyway, and they will be asked to pay in another transaction or in another way because
this is because you built like a platform to make that work, right? But essentially you guys are working extra hard to fix something that is flawed in the protocol, I would say.
Come on, we must be the replace by fee is also a problem when the feature is not there. You have to rely on miners for that. So you cannot deny that.
We're not using child pay for parent. It's there. Child pay for parent. So the merchants to get the money.
So I'm gonna repeat because otherwise it's not the
the merchant has to make an extra amount.
Let's try to keep it all on our
Yeah,
mics.
so what he was saying is that you can achieve the same effect by using child pay for parent. However, child pay for parent doesn't allow you to do double spends, so it's probably a better alternative to replace by fee. I think like
It costs a little bit more for you, but you are not risking to lose everything, right?
Yeah, but I'm not sure if child place for parent will work if the other double spending transaction actually has more fee. You get in some sort of a fee battle.
Do you think working out replace by fee is worth a little less time before dinner? Okay. Ready?
I mean, so isn't this basically solved, if I got the talk from yesterday correct, by TomTom7's payment protocol extensions? I mean, like the whole replace by fee and that you have no Wi-Fi. I mean, if you have like a bidirectional communication with the merchant directly and you like insert your money there, then it's done, right? I mean, no one needs any more replace by fee for anything.
I mean, if you use payment channel, that's what you're saying?
No, if I use this payment protocol like extensions that TomTom7 talked about yesterday, or do I get that wrong? I mean, then you don't need the replace by fee thing for anything. I mean, I don't even see a scenario where your Wi-Fi fails where you don't get the payment. Right, I mean,
I have nothing to say.
All right.
Go back to the original version, have IP to IP or other such things. Allow the person to pay the merchant directly, allow the merchant to push it to the network.
Yeah.
That was in the original code.
Sounds good. Oh, doesn't sound good, says the technical people. I think we should cut this off. I know everyone wants the last word, but...
Can I suggest we have another little meeting during the barbecue of all the technical
Barbecue,
guys?
technical people.
Yeah, and with CASA people, with other people.
Okay. Here, you announce that.
There's plenty of technical people here that know all the ins and outs and what IP to IP is, etc. Maybe the BitCasa guys and other interested guys can approach us during the barbecue.
Okay. And I'll let you know I really pushed Peter Todd on this issue when I interviewed him, and he assured me it was not a problem. So. Anyway. All right. Thank you, Amaury. Great.